on where things stand. Carly and Ashley?
All right. Griff Jenkins live for us. Thank you, Griff.
Thanks, Griff. And today, Vice President Kamala Harris will join Virginia gubernatorial candidate Terry McAuliffe on the campaign trail as the race appears to be a dead heat.
Brooke Sigmund joins us now as Democrats scramble to convince voters that GOP candidate Glenn Youngkin is more dangerous than they anticipated. Good morning, Brooke.
Good morning, guys. We are less than 2 weeks out from Election Day, and polls are showing an incredibly tight gubernatorial race in Virginia, and it's looking like it's going to come down to the wire. A new Monmouth University poll shows Republican Glenn Youngkin gaining ground. The candidate's now tied 46 to 46% among likely voters ahead of the election on November 2nd. Youngkin joined Hannity last night. Listen to this.
I'm going to cut taxes, and Terry McAuliffe wants to raise taxes. I'm standing strong for law enforcement. And Terry McAuliffe is running around with politicians who want to defund police and close prisons. And oh, by the way, I'm going to get our job machine cranked back up.
This as the McAuliffe campaign is pushing back against a local TV station, saying he did not cut an interview short.
Okay. All right, we're over. That's okay. Thank you. Hey, I gave you extra time. Come on, man. You should have asked better questions.
McAuliffe's press secretary tweeting, "It's really unfortunate to see 7 News DC mislead viewers by saying Terry abruptly left an interview that was only scheduled to be 10 minutes long." Meanwhile, the McAuliffe campaign is pulling in some big names to help boost voter turnout. Today, Vice President Kamala Harris will join the Democrat in Northern Virginia, and then this weekend to mobilize Democratic voters, former President Barack Obama will head to Virginia.
Virginia, you have a lot of responsibility this year. I know Terry McAuliffe, and I can tell you, as governor, no one worked harder for their state.
Obama will join McAuliffe on Saturday in Richmond, while Stacey Abrams and Dave Matthews will hit the campaign trail Sunday in Charlottesville. Carly, Ashley?
All right, Brooke Singman live for us this morning. Thanks, Brooke.
Thanks, Brooke. Okay, now to the border crisis. The number of migrants arrested at the southern border this fiscal year hitting a 35-year high. The Washington Post reporting more than 1.7 million migrants were detained. Over 192,000 migrants were reportedly taken into custody last month alone as illegal crossings skyrocket under the Biden administration. This as a huge new caravan of migrants in Mexico is reportedly getting ready to head to the United States. The Mexican government is trying to keep them from leaving Tapachula, but group organizers are reportedly planning to leave on Saturday.
And now to a Fox News alert. Investigators find what appear to be human remains in the search for Brian Laundrie.
Steve Harrigan is live at the park in Northport, Florida, where the discovery was made. Steve, good morning.
Good morning. That's right. The FBI confirming now that they have found human remains in this park behind me. They found those remains in an area where they found personal belongings of Brian Laundrie. Here's the FBI investigator in charge.
Investigators found what appears to be human remains, along with personal items, such as a backpack and notebook belonging to Brian Laundrie. These items were found in an area that up until recently have been underwater.
Fox Digital obtained exclusive footage of Laundrie's parents with investigators in this park. The parents advised FBI agents on where to look for what could be their son. Here's the parents' attorney.
The probability is strong that it is Brian's remains, but we're going to wait until the forensic results come in and verify that.
The Laundrie home continues to be a magnet for protesters, people who followed this case intensely, some coming from different parts of the country, often yelling at the Laundrie parents, saying they did not do enough in this investigation or that they even shielded their son from police.
We're the ones that are torturing you. No worry about Gabby Petito, right? You didn't give a darn about Gabby Petito or her family. You didn't care.
This park was just reopened to the public on Tuesday. It's closed again now. It's likely the FBI will be processing this area for the next several days to come. Back to you.
Okay, Steve Harrigan live for us in Northport, Florida. Thank you, Steve. Let's bring in Dr. Michael Bodden, forensic pathologist and Fox News contributor. Dr. Bodden, the Laundrie family attorney says that the body found yesterday is likely that of Brian Laundrie. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yes, I agree, and I think that the whole purpose of bringing his family down was to make an identification. His identification has already been made by the family, probably by teeth, by fingerprints, and they're waiting to do a DNA test, maybe to announce it. But he's identified, number one. The difficult part will be the cause of death, depending on the environment, since he was underwater, apparently, for a while.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. They said that the body was submerged in water until recently. So how does that affect the investigation into how and when he died?
Well, the most important thing will be what kind of animal activity there was during the past perhaps 5 weeks that he's been missing. Remember, they have insects, rodents, and alligators there, so that won't affect the identification, but will affect the cause of death, and that's what the medical examiner in Sarasota will be working on for the next couple of days.
Yeah. So you're saying that if this body is that of Brian Laundrie's, there is a chance that we may never know how he died, if he committed suicide or if he died because of the elements or something else like that.
The chances are they will find the cause of death, but there's a possibility that if there's enough destruction of the body by the passage of time, by the environment, and especially by animal activity, it may be difficult. What would be most important is what's in the backpack and what's in the notebook, and I'm sure the FBI is doing a lot of work on that now.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Does the placement of the body, Dr. Bodden, tell you anything? The lawyer for the Laundrie family said that the body was found pretty close to the entrance of the park, about a mile or two in. What does that tell you?
Well, they'll have figured out how long it would have taken him to get down to where he was found. And part of it will be they've also been looking for other shoe prints, maybe tire marks, to see if perchance he was dropped off there in a vehicle in the area where it was found that wasn't submerged. And so they'll learn a lot about how he got there. If there's an injury to the body, it may be difficult to distinguish an alligator from a rock or from even a gunshot wound. But if there were a gunshot wound, there should be a gun in the vicinity, and we don't know if they found one or not at this time.
You know, Dr. Bodden, quickly, there are two parallel investigations happening right now. One of them is in Florida, having to do with this body that was found yesterday, and the other is the murder investigation into what happened to Gabby Petito. So how does what we discovered yesterday with this body, if it's Brian Laundrie, affect the investigation into Gabby Petito's death?
Well, it's a great resource, because what's in the backpack and what's in the notebook, if he's keeping a notebook, and it looks like he may have kept it in some kind of protected plastic or something from the photographs, where the water might not have destroyed things, that he may have listed in there what was happening during that critical time, and also even an explanation that he's leaving, if it's a suicide, some kind of explanation so that the families will know better what happened.
Yeah, and that's what the Petito family wants. They want answers, and you're saying they may still get them, which is good news. Dr. Michael Bodden, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
All right, you bet. Ashley?
Okay, time right now is 5:12 on the East Coast. Brand new emails appear to prove the nation's most powerful teachers unions influenced last-minute changes to the CDC's school reopening guidance. Our next guest helped uncover those documents. Stick with us. director of Americans for Public, whose group originally obtained these emails. First off, thank you for being with us this morning, but I want to get to these emails. I want to read through these, and then we'll discuss that. So first, it says, thank you for your continued openness to our suggestions and input. It would be great to see the insertion, some variation of the following in the event high community transmission results from a new variant of SARS-CoV-2. A new update of these guidelines may be necessary. Okay, then this email appears to show Walensky forwarded the union's email to her team at the CDC, the one I just read. A CDC official to Walensky said, yes, we'll work with the team. Walensky responded, super, thank you for doing that. And then to this one, this email appears to show the CDC officials sent final guidance to the teachers' unions before releasing it publicly, saying, quote, thanks again for your continued partnership and input, attaching a PDF version of the operational strategy that we'll post today. Okay, Caitlin, tell us why this is so concerning that it seems like there's this closeness between these people talking, you know, about the reopening or not reopening of schools. And not only that, but how it doesn't really follow the science.
Absolutely. Well, good morning and thank you for having me on. Thanks to Americans for Trust's ongoing lawsuit against the CDC, we recently received new emails that further reveal the extensive coordination between the White House, the CDC, and teachers' unions on COVID policy. And the more emails that are released, the more we can see that this was all politics and no science. These latest emails show that teachers' unions were directing and rewriting the school reopening guidance just hours before it was released. And before the CDC made the guidance public, they ran everything past the teachers' unions one last time. They didn't run anything by the scientists at the last minute, they didn't run anything by the parents, and they certainly didn't run anything by the bipartisan group of governors that would have to implement it. The more emails that are released, the more we can see the outside influences behind their supposedly science-based decisions.
Okay, and you know, Caitlin, this made a lot of people mad because it didn't fall in line with the science and those recommendations, especially because evidence shows that schools, they aren't the primary source of COVID contractions. Do you share the sentiment with that? Or do you think that there's, any science-based possibility with what they were doing in, cahoots more or less with the teachers' unions?
You know, I think you're absolutely right that people are mad, especially parents. It's important to remember that it was the teachers' unions directing all of this, and they have a political agenda. Parents were not consulted at all, and it's them that had their students out of school for a year and a half.
And then we're just seeing a few of the emails and these exchanges back and forth. Do you think there's more emails that are going to come out?
You know, I'm so glad you asked that question. So far, we've received thousands of pages of emails, but we are not done fighting the CDC to hand over more emails. There's a lot more to see, and we will continue fighting for transparency until we and parents deserve all the answers.
Okay, Caitlin Sutherland, the Executive Director of Americans for Public Trust. We appreciate you being with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Carly.
Okay, the time is now 20 minutes after the hour. Brand new questions surrounding Hunter Biden's former business deals, and this time a new report is linking him to a Russian oligarch who was just raided by the FBI. And from the basement to the bunker, Politico is ripping President Biden for hiding from the press. Joe Concha has noticed, and he is live with us coming up next. A new report from the New York Post reveals Hunter Biden tried pitching himself in 2011 as an expert resource on a Russian oligarch targeted by the FBI. Hunter sending that email to a U.S. aluminum firm seeking payment for information.
Hunter Biden trying to sell for $25,000 his knowledge, intelligence about this Russian oligarch who's allegedly quite odious if you look at the Treasury Department's press release from 2011 when it sanctioned him.
That oligarch previously investigated for money laundering and extortion. Hunter's reported emails suggested an additional $55,000 for, quote, refined analysis on the oligarch.
Politico is calling out President Biden for shying away from the press, saying the lack of interviews reflects the bunker mentality this White House has taken with the media.
Joe Concha, Fox News contributor, is here to react. So in the first 9 months of President Trump's presidency, he did 57 interviews, so far 47. Obama 131, and the number there, you see President Biden has only done 11, and that is why Joe Politico says that Biden is in the bunker.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this a little bit, Carly, Ashley, right, for many months now, as far as the president pleading the fifth, thinking he could run his presidency by not talking to the American people. And I mean talking, I don't mean a scripted, teleprompter-based speech. I'm talking about where you actually have to do a one-on-one with somebody, and the difference between doing a one-on-one and, say, a press conference where he calls on handpicked reporters is a one-on-one allows for follow-up. It allows for the interviewer, if he's a decent journalist, to press the president on things like, hey, you got this massive spending bill, the biggest one in history that's proposed. How could you continue to say that it will cost $0, that it will actually not add anything to the debt, will actually be a tax cut for the middle class when inflation is at a 30-year high? I would love to have that one-on-one interview with the president, but he does not allow them because he's not confident in his arguments, and particularly his handlers will not allow it in any way, shape, or form. But it is amazing, though. Here you have the president who has not done one-on-one interview since Labor Day while trying to sell this package, and that's why it's stumbling so much. He's not selling it when his predecessors would go out there and do that when they wanted to get something passed, guys.
Joe, not only has he not done a one-on-one interview, but do you think it's ever going to be to the point where, you know, if he does hold a press conference, a news conference, that he's going to just openly take questions like former President Trump did?
Oh, I think you'll see the New York Jets play the New York Giants in the Super Bowl before we see that happen. And Todd's not here, so we could pummel at least one of his teams at this point. I'll throw the Eagles in there for Jillian as well. Yeah, look, the president will run to his safe space tonight, and that's CNN, to do another town hall on that network. That's the former home of Jen Psaki, by the way, and there are no accidents. And this is a network that's in a distant third among major cable news networks. It's lost nearly 80% of its audience since the beginning of the year. Yeah, that's a great idea. If you want to bring in independence, if you're Joe Biden, go run to CNN, which is hemorrhaging viewers, which has a mostly liberal audience, and that's where you're going to try to sell what you're trying to sell.
Yeah.
Here's where I'll end it, guys. Joe Biden's currently at 28% approval in Quinnipiac's new poll among independents. 28%. You can't even get 1 in 3 from that group, the people that decide elections, to support you. That's how bad it is for the president right now.
Joe Concha, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you.
Oh. Thank you. Did you hear the puppy barking, by the way, througut the entire segment? That's why I was a little flustered.
I didn't, but I wish I did.
Nonstop.
We have time if you want to go
right.
pick the puppy up and show us.
I'm all hooked up with wires and whatnot, but tomorrow, I promise, I'll bring Maximus on set. Okay?
Thanks. Sounds good. Something to look forward to. Thank you, Joe. All right, let's head on down south. A live look at Orlando, Florida.
Senior meteorologist Janice Dean is here with our Fox weather forecast. Good morning, Janice.
Joe can always send it to my social media because over the weekend I asked for your pet pictures and it blew up Twitter.
And the fall pictures, too.
Right. Every weekend I'm going to be asking for your pictures on social media at Janice Dean if you want to take part. Okay, current temperatures, we've got that cold front that's moving across the central U.S., the Ohio Valley, the Mississippi River Valley. Behind it, much colder air, and this cold front is going to not miss us. It's coming towards us, the northeast, today and Friday. So take a look at this. There's the area of low pressure across the Great Lakes. The cold air behind it, dropping those temperatures, warm air ahead of it. And here it comes across the northeast. This is going to be Friday, mostly Friday morning for the I-95 corridor. And we'll drop those temperatures again as we get into the weekend. The other big story is the west. Big old storm system moving across areas of the West Coast, bringing coastal rain and mountain snow. This is a good thing. Even though it's going to bring the potential for some flooding, higher elevation snow, ultimately it's going to be a big drought buster, and that's exactly what we need out there. Unfortunately, I mean, look at that. Like the rainfall totals along the coast are going to be incredible, and then the snowfall rates really quite impressive as well over the night. So this is going into Wednesday of next week. Okay, so it's not like, you know, on the weekend it's going to be over several days, but that's the good news. It's a drought buster. We like to hear that. And send me your pet pictures.
Yeah, send Janice your pet pictures. And, you know, soon people are going to be asking you, what's the weather for Halloween?
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll make a forecast for you tomorrow, sort of a look ahead.
Yes.
All right?
All right, sounds good.
See you later.
2 things to look forward to, pet pictures and Halloween weather. We love it. Janice, thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.
Time right now is 5:31 on the East Coast. Another new poll spells more bad news for President Biden, showing him losing support from white women and Hispanic voters.
So what is behind that? We will ask a voter panel coming up next.
I feel.
President Biden's approval rating is in a free fall as polls indicate his favorability is slipping among women and Hispanics. As a new Fox News poll reveals, only 45% of Americans say they have a favorable impression of the president. Here to react, Los Angeles mother of 3, Daniela Bloom, Hispanic market expert and CEO of CN Plus, Lily Gil Valletta, and New York City mom, Natalia Marukfer. Good morning to you all.
Good morning.
So, Natalia, I'll start with you because I believe you voted for President Biden. How are you feeling about him today?
I did vote for him, and I think he's accomplished some pretty significant things when it comes to environmental regulations, which has always been my top platform. But when I consider what he has done to America's children, or rather not done, it is heartbreaking. I think we're about 274 days into his presidency, and we are still masking, restricting, and just curtailing every single freedom our school children have. He promised us schools open and children restored within 100 days, and we are way past that deadline.
A Quinnipiac poll asked, do you approve of the way Joe Biden is handling his job as president? And only 40% of white women approve, and that number is 33% of Hispanics approving. And those numbers are significant, Lily, because he usually polls pretty well in those two demographics. So do those numbers surprise you?
Well, it is not surprising when we see how the overall approval rate is declining. In fact, there's even new data as of yesterday based on 2.6 million digital discussions analyzed by Culture Intel, and the negative sentiment amongst Hispanics is 52%. I mean, let's keep in mind that he owes his win of the last election in states like Arizona and Georgia to the Hispanic vote, and that's what the analysis has revealed after the election. So this is very concerning for Democrats, and a lot of what we're hearing around restrictions, a lot of Hispanics are business owners, also the mom's concern for the kids getting back to school is just a compounding, you know, lack of action that people are starting to lose patience around, and they want to get back to what we knew as a little bit of normal.
Daniela, you say that you're frustrated with President Biden over hypocrisy regarding the border in Afghanistan. Please explain.
Yes, I mean, we've heard on and on about building back better, yet we see at the border the crisis of mostly women and children, vulnerable in the tens of thousands, susceptible to sex trafficking and drug lords, and just the complete disaster of Afghanistan almost overnight reversing back to barbaric times with women not being allowed an education and not being able to drive and honor killings back in business. It's just atrocious.
You 3 are all moms, and the White House just released its plan to get children vaccinated between the ages of 5 and 11, and the vaccines are apparently going to be distributed in smaller doses with smaller needles. Natalia, are you comfortable with that?
I think it's ridiculous, to be honest. And I think it's been shown over and over again that our kids are statistically not likely to get sick from COVID. I think in a year and a half, there have been a total of 500 pediatric deaths from COVID. I mean, it's a lot, but it's when you compare it to other vectors and accidents and car wrecks, I mean, that's a drop in the bucket. And here we are hurtling ahead, trying to vaccinate the least vulnerable group instead of sharing vaccines with the most vulnerable countries where we could actually stop a global pandemic. This just feels like pure politics.
Lily,
parents are not comfortable with it.
Lily, how do you feel about vaccinating your child?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a former pharma executive. I was at J&J for 10 years, and I love science and evidence. And back to the science and evidence, the flu is more deadly and requires, higher levels of intensive care units to be open for children than COVID. So I want, as a parent, to have the choice to be able to select what is right for my child, and I will follow the evidence.
And Daniela, you live in California, where Gavin Newsom has mandated children get vaccinated. So quickly here, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's ridiculous. Children are not at high risk for COVID, but what they are at high risk for, what the APBA has just declared a national emergency, is the mental health in children and adolescents, with suicide rates as the second leading cause of death skyrocketing, according to the CDC. Let's put our energy into that.
Yeah, well, you three are all very impressive ladies. We're so grateful for your insight this morning. Thank you so much for waking up and sharing it with us. We appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Ashley?
Okay, coming up, former President Trump was silenced by big tech, so he's starting his own social media site. Cheryl Casoni has the details next.
And all eyes are on the Virginia governor's race, of course, which is now in a dead heat. We're checking in with Lawrence Jones live from Loudoun County. Diner in Loudoun County. And Lawrence, I have a feeling school boards will be a topic of conversation for you today.
See, Carla, you're so smart. Education is the leading issue here in Virginia. But as I look at the national polling where the president is dropping, he's dropped 11 points in the latest Fox News polls that we just got out yesterday. It seems like it's starting to impact a lot of these local elections, and it is the crisis administration. You got the border, you got what's happening with education, sending the DOJ after the parents. You got what's happening with these ports where you can't even get the products in. People may miss Christmas as a result of that. They'll get to celebrate it, but some of the kids may not have their toys. It's really starting to impact this governor race as well. It's in a dead heat. But education, you're right, is going to be the #1 issue, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and this poll actually shows Youngkin 46, McAuliffe 46. I mean, that's
super
neck and neck, so it's going to be close. But also, Lawrence, preview what you're going to be doing this morning with Breakfast with Friends.
Yeah, I want to talk about the issues facing the country today. Obviously, education will be that issue because Loudoun County is ground zero for that fight that's happened. They were the first ones to start going to their school board meetings and really starting to criticize some of the curriculum that was coming out there. And then, as I said, you have the DOJ and FBI essentially saying maybe these parents are a risk to public safety, and they're really fired up about that. But I'm also going to talk about the economy. We know what the impact of inflation is on them. Again, we're going to be talking about what's happening at the border. We saw that the president dropped also on that issue. So I think those are the two defining issues of today. And I just want to know what they think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're so right. You're so smart to mention the polls that just came out on President Biden and how that absolutely has an impact on the race in Virginia. And it doesn't appear like it's going to be good news for Terry McAuliffe. But it's neck and neck, and we'll have to wait 2 weeks to see what happens. Only time will tell. It's anybody's race. Lawrence.
We are in the final stretch.
Bingo. That's right. Don't forget to eat breakfast, too. Have a big meal.
You know I'm not going to miss my biscuits and gravy.
Good for you.
Thanks, Lawrence.
All right, Lawrence. Thanks a lot. We'll talk to you later. In the meantime, President Biden says there is no need to be talking about the numbers when it comes to his massive $2 trillion spending plan.
Cheryl Casoni with our sister network, Fox Business, joins us now as a new Fox News poll reveals some telling numbers about how Americans actually feel about Biden's handling of the economy. Hey, Cheryl.
Hey, that's right, guys. Good morning. So the president making lengthy remarks Wednesday in his hometown, telling the audience, don't worry about the cost.
And it does not increase the debt. When you talk about the number, we shouldn't even talk about the numbers because it's all paid for, written in the same piece of legislation. So you pass the spending, you're also passing the tax cuts, and you're passing the taxes that are going to be increased.
This is the latest Fox News poll shows just 39% of those surveyed approve of President Biden's handling of the economy. That is a big drop from last month when he had 50% approval. He is also losing ground among Democrats and independents in that same time frame as the debt debate has raged on in Washington. The president still claims the plan would be a tax cut to the middle class.
And Cheryl, Dave Chappelle's comedy special, emphasis on comedy, has offended people at Netflix.
This has really erupted for Netflix. So transgender Netflix employees offended by comedian Dave Chappelle's new show, The Closer, making a list of demands during a protest outside the company's LA offices. Among their demands, eliminate references to Chappelle in the workplace, invest in trans and non-binary content comparable to the company's investment in transphobic content, and hire trans people to leadership roles. Now, Netflix responded in a statement, we value our trans colleagues and allies and understand the deep hurt that's been caused. We respect the decision of any employee who chooses to walk out and recognize we have much more work to do both within Netflix and in our content. In the special, Chappelle makes several jokes that many in the transgender community find offensive.
And then, Cheryl, let's talk about Truth Social. I saw this coming.
I did. We kind of expected this, and here we go. Former President Trump launching his own social media platform, Truth Social. And a statement, Trump saying, quote, I created Truth Social and TMTG to stand up to the tyranny of big tech. We live in a world where the Taliban has a huge presence on Twitter, yet your favorite American president has been silenced. This is unacceptable. Now, the platform is going to feature, by the way, a subscription video service. That's going to be like an on-demand thing. Former Trump spokesman Jason Miller, who launched his own platform, that's called Getter, put out a statement congratulating his former boss. And then he added on that statement, now Facebook and Twitter will lose even more market share. Oh. Remember, Trump was banned from Facebook and Twitter following the January 6th riot. So, you know, this is his way to get his voice out there. He did have a kind of a newsletter thing he was doing back over the summer. That didn't really work out, though. So.
Yeah, and I was always wondering why he didn't promote Parler any more than he did, and he didn't at all. And it's probably because he had his own idea brainstorming. Yep. All right, Cheryl, thank you so much.
You bet.
Still ahead, prices are just about everything are going up, and grocery store shelves are clearing out. Americans say their number one concern right now is, of course, Kat Kamik. Good morning, Congresswoman. And that number, 1.7 million, doesn't even account for gotaways, those who evaded border security.
Absolutely, and good morning to you both. You're 100% right. Not only is 1.7 million apprehensions unacceptable, unconscionable, really, and by the way, apprehensions doesn't mean that we caught them and returned them to their home country. A lot of those folks are in our country now with a 5-year notice to appear before a judge. Now, of course, we all know that no one's going to actually follow up on their court date, but you hit on the gotaways. What we know is we have about 350,000 known gotaways. Those are individuals that were either captured on camera or they were seen by a Border Patrol agent and they were evading them. Those are the ones that are particularly troublesome and worrisome for us because they're the known sex offenders, the gang members. Those are the individuals who are seeking to avoid apprehension because they have a record. They know that they'll get turned around. Where are they in our country now? We don't know.
That's a great question.
Right. And Congresswoman, do you think this is all, as far as the issue at the border, do you think this is beyond repair? And if not, what's it going to take to fix this? And then not only that, but how long? Because 61% of those migrants that were expelled, they were expelled under Title 42.
Right. You know, I'm an eternal optimist. I don't think that we are too far beyond repair, but it's going to take some pretty tough leadership and really strong, focused leadership. Clearly, what we have right now is anything but. You know, we've got a Weekend at Bernie's type presidency going on right now, so I don't expect much out of the White House. But what I am expecting is for a Republican-led Congress after the midterms to really take charge. Obviously, upholding Title 42, reinstating MPP to its fullest. That's the Migrant Protection Protocol. Really getting back to the border wall in one of the busiest sectors, the RGV sector. There's 89 miles left to build. All the money had already been appropriated, and this administration on day one halted that progress. In fact, in some cases along the southwest border, they are actively taking down the wall, which is just incredible because this is a force multiplier. And we can fix this. We just need strong leadership to do it.
And Congresswoman, your colleague, Republican Congressman Tony Gonzalez in Texas, he said that he was speaking to Panama's foreign minister, and she said that there are 100,000 people that have crossed through Panama on their way to the United States, and 52 of them were arrested with ties to al-Qaeda. You're a member of the Homeland Security Committee. I mean, this has got to be pretty concerning for you.
Absolutely, and this is another reason why we need Secretary Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, to get out. He needs to resign. He would not agree to even briefing members on the Homeland Security Committee before the end of September on the individuals that have come across our border, apprehended, that are on the known terrorist watch list. We know that there are many of them who have. If the FBI can produce statistics of the number of people in criminal activity across the United States, why won't Homeland Security release the number of individuals who have been apprehended at the southwest border that are on the international terrorist watch list? Seems like this administration's trying to hide something.
Right. And then I want to get to this. A Fox News poll shows inflation is the top concern for voters right now, as Biden's approval rating obviously is starting to tank, and it's falling across the board. But, you know, Biden pushed so hard back in 2020 that he wants to help the middle class, but this is directly affecting the middle class, and not in a good way.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter if it's gas or groceries or goods. We are going to pay for it. Everyday Americans like myself, it doesn't matter what you are trying